Alright, today we're going to go over the rewriting equations worksheet. There's 14 problems, 1 through 10. We'll have two parts. We'll have two parts. And then there's 11 through 14. Okay? Alright, so remember, when we rewrite equations, we have to isolate one variable. You're still going to use PEMDAS backwards. So you're still going to worry about PEMDAS. Remember, we go backwards to solve. And then addition and subtraction undo each other. Multiplication and division undo each other. We'll talk about how you get rid of exponents later in the year. But that's how we're still going to use PEMDAS backwards. Okay? We will not get a number solution. It won't just be x equals a number, alright, because there's two variables. Alright, number one is 4x plus 9y equals 30. We did do this in class, so you should have it, so I'm going to go through pretty quick. Remember, everyone's going to have two problems, two parts. There's going to be an A part, there's going to be a B part. So you're going to have 4y and 4x. This just tells me what variable I'm going to isolate. So I have 4x plus 9y equals 30. Because it says 4y, I'm getting this y by itself. So I have to get rid of everything around the y. This is 9 times y, 9y plus 4x. So I have to get rid of the addition first. That's why I have minus 4x from both sides, because how do I get rid of addition? By subtraction. I'm left with 9y equals, and I'm just going to write it as minus 4x plus 30. These are not like terms. You cannot combine them. Now, I don't really worry too much about the right side. I worry about the left side. I have 9 times y. How do I get rid of that 9? Divide. Now remember, if you want to put one big division bar, that's okay, but you got to remember that the 9 is divided by both of them. So I end up with y equals negative 4/9 x plus, and I'm going to simplify 30 over 9 to be 10 over 3. Look, y is all by itself, so we're done with that part of the problem. B, exact same concept. 4x plus 9y equals 30. The only difference is I'm now solving for x. So I get rid of the 9y first, because I get rid of addition before I get rid of multiplication. Now remember, those are not like terms, so I have 4x equals minus 9y plus 30. You could write 30 minus 9y. I'm just going to leave it that way. I like having my variable first. I divide by 4. I divide everything by 4. Notice, I just used two small division bars this time. If you struggle with this part right here, if you struggle with that big one division bar and forget to divide both of them by the number, then I recommend using two small division bars. 4 over 4 is 1, so I have x equals negative 9/4 y plus 15 over 2, because I just simplified 30 over 4. And that's my final answer. Alright, so number 2, we have 5x minus 7y equals 12. Part A is 4y. Part B is 4x. So I have 5x minus 7y equals 12. Y, I always underline the variable that's important. So I know I want to find y, so that's the variable that I'm not allowed to move. I can move everything else. I can move the 5x. I can get rid of the minus 7 times, but I cannot get rid of the y. Now, remember, that's minus 7 times y, so I have to get rid of the 5x first. So I subtract 5x from both sides. I get minus 7y, or the negative 7y, equals, and I'm just going to write the x first. It doesn't matter. You could do 12 minus 5x. Doesn't matter the order, but I just like to have my variable first. Now I'm going to divide everything by negative 7. You could use small division bars, two small division bars, or you can use one big division bar. It doesn't really matter as long as you know negative 7 divides by both of them. I end up with y equals 5/7 x minus 12/7. Done. Now I'm going to solve for x. So I have 5x minus 7y equals 12. Same thing. This time x is important, so I got to get rid of the 7y first. I have 5x equals 12 plus 7y. I divide everything by 5. Look, I could use one big division bar as long as I understand 5 is divided by both of them. I get x equals, I'm going to write the y first, so I have 7/5 y, because 7 over 5, 7/5, plus 12/5. And this one didn't even get simplified, so that's totally fine the way it is. And that's it. That's it for 2. All right, before we do number 3, you have to understand that we can undo the distributive property, or it's really called factoring a common term. Now remember, the distributive property says this: A times the quantity B plus C equals, and A is a pizza delivery guy, he drops off pizza at B's house and C's house. Okay? And you end up with AB plus AC. That's reading it from left to right. But you can also take it from right to left. You can have AB and AC and then work backwards. Okay? So, undoing the distributive property is very simple. If I have AB plus AC, who delivered the pizza? That's what they have in common. That's how I know A was the pizza delivery guy. So he goes outside the parentheses. When he goes outside the parentheses, whatever's left goes inside the parentheses. How to be. All right, so it's the same way, and you can always check your work by redistributing. The reason this is important because I took 2 A's and I turned it into 1A. That's going to be very important in this next problem. All right, A, I have xy plus 3x equals 25. Now remember, y is the important one. So this one doesn't take into account what we just talked about because there's only one y. It's going to be exactly the same. This is x times y plus 3x. What do I get rid of first? Addition. That's why I subtract 3x from both sides. So I end up with xy equals minus 3x plus 25. Now, this is multiplication. How do I get rid of that? I divide. So then I end up with y equals, these x's cancel, so I get negative 3 plus 25 over x. And I'm done. Now, b is where it gets tricky, because I have xy plus 3x equals 25. Now, the x is what's important. And look, there's 2 of them, so I'm in trouble. So, I have to think, if I looked at this, could I figure out who was the pizza delivery guy? The pizza's already been delivered. Who was the pizza delivery guy? Well, the x is in common. These x's are in common. So I'm going to take those 2 common x's and turn it into 1. And I can do that as long as I put inside the parentheses whatever's left over. Y plus 3. So, and if I want to check my work, does x times y give me this? It does. Does x times 3 give me 3x? It does. So this does work. All right. Now, remember, this is x times a bunch of stuff. So if I want to get rid of a bunch of stuff, I just divide by y plus 3, divide by y plus 3, and guess what? We're already done. Because now x is by itself, and I just have 25 over y plus 3. And that's it for 3. All right, number 4 is 9y minus 4x equals negative 16. So everything's exactly the same. So I say 4y, 4x. I have 9y minus 4x equals negative 16. Remember, y is important. So I have to either get rid of the 9 or the negative 4x. I get rid of that negative 4x by adding 4x to both sides. So I have 9y equals minus 16. And actually, I like to just write the 4x first. 4x minus 16. Divide both sides by 9. I get y equals 4/9 x minus 16 over 9. Done. Now x, exact same concept. 9y minus 4x equals 16. This time I subtract 9y first. I get minus 4x equals minus 9y plus 16. I divide everything by negative 4. I get x equals negative over negative is a positive, so I have positive 9/4 y minus 16 over 4 is just negative 4, so it's minus 4. Done. And that's it for number 4. All right, number 5. I have the opposite of x equals 3y minus 55. So remember, part A is 4y. Part B is 4x. I have the opposite of x equals 3y minus 55. Remember, y is important. So I'm going to divide everything by 3. So I get negative x thirds equals minus 55 plus y. And now I'm going to add 55 to both sides. And I get negative x thirds plus 55 equals y. Now for x, I have minus x equals 3y minus 55. And I'm already done because x is by itself. Alright, that's it for 5. Alrighty, 6 is very similar to 3. So if you get stuck on 6, look back to 3. Remember, I'm going to do y first. Then I'm going to do x. So I have the opposite x, y, plus 3x equals 30. There's only one y, so I don't care. I'm going to get rid of the minus 3x first. I get the opposite of x equals, the opposite of x times y equals negative 3x plus 30. Divide everything by the opposite of x. I get y equals, those x's cancel, a negative over a negative is a positive, so it's 3 minus, because the negative sign right there, 30 all over x, and we're done. Now when I solve for x, I get minus xy plus 3x equals 30. So what do I see in common? I see x's, and that's what's important. So these were in common. Those were the guys who delivered pizza, so I'm going to take the x out. Notice I didn't take this negative sign out. That negative sign stayed. So I have negative y plus 3 equals 30. Now I divide everything by the opposite of y plus 3. I end up with x equals 30 over the opposite of y plus 3. And we're done. Okay? Once you understand how to undo the distributive property, which is that's taking those two x's right here and here and turn them into 1x, this problem is actually pretty easy. All right? That's it for 6. All right, number 7, we have minus negative 4x plus 7y plus 7. 2 parts to this problem, so I have 4y. And then I have 4x. I have minus 4x plus 7y plus 7 equals 0. What do I care about? I care about the y. So I'm going to get rid of everything else. I'm going to get rid of the minus 7. I'm going to get rid of the 4x. So I add 4x, I have minus 7. So I add 4x and I minus 7. I get 7y equals 4x minus 7. You could have done the last thing in 2 steps. I just did it in 1. Divide everything by 7. I get y equals 4 7's x minus 1. Done. B. Now I'm solving for x. I have minus 4x plus 7y plus 7 equals 0. X is what I care about, so I get rid of the 7y. I get rid of the 7. I have minus 4x equals negative 7y minus 7. I divide everything by negative 4. I end up with x equals positive 7/4 because they're both negative, plus, oh, I forgot the y, plus 7/4 because they're both negative. Done. That's it for B. All right, so we have 6x minus 5y plus 44 equals 0. Now I'm going to break it down into 2 steps unlike I did in the last problem, just so maybe if you're a little lost, maybe that was too much, this will make it a little bit easier. So 6x minus 5y plus 44 equals 0. Y is what's important, so I have to get rid of the 44 or the 6x. I'm just going to get rid of the 44 first because, look, once I get rid of the 44, it looks just like number 1, number 2, number 4, number 5, etc. All right? And now remember, y is still the guy I'm not allowed to move. So I got to either get rid of the negative 5 times y or the 6x. I get rid of the 6x first because I always get rid of multiplication after that. So I end up with minus 5y equals minus 6x minus 44. Now I'm going to divide everything by 5. I end up with y equals negative 6/5 x minus 44/5. I don't think that can be reduced, so I'm done. Now, when I solve for x, I'm going to do it the same exact way. 6x minus 5y plus 44 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 44 first, because once I subtract 44, it looks like one of the problems I already knew how to do. Now, remember, x is what's important, so I'm going to add 5y to both sides. So I say 6x equals 5y minus 44, just because I like to write my y's first. You could do minus 44 plus 5y. Divide everything by 6. Divide everything by 6. I get x equals 5 6y. And 44 and 6 are both divisible by 2. So I say minus 22 thirds. Done. That's it for 8. All right, least common multiple. When you have multiple numbers that are on the bottom of a fraction, you can find the number that will make all the fractions disappear by finding the least common multiple. All it is finding, for example, any numbers that have, the easiest way, even though it's sometimes a little bit longer, is you list out multiples of a number. List out multiples of another number. See the smallest match. For example, if I had 2, the multiples of 2 are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, etc. It goes on forever. If I had 5, the multiples of 5 are 5, 10, 15, 20, goes on forever. See how 10 is the smallest number in common? That means that these were the bottoms of fractions. 5 is the least common multiple. 5 is the thing that will make them, I would have to make them both denominators 10 in order to combine them. Or in our case, we're going to multiply everything by 10 to make all the fractions disappear in one step. All right, number 9. I have 1/2 x minus 4/5 y equals 19. So the first thing to do is I'm going to find the least common multiple between my denominators. My denominators are 2 and 5. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 5, and 10. Look at that. That's the least common multiple. So I'm going to multiply every single thing by 10. I'm going to multiply 10 times everything. So 10 goes to everything. I get 10 times 1/2 is 5. So I have 5x minus 8y. If you do 10 times negative 4/5, you get 8, negative 8, equals 190. Now, I'm going to do everything exactly the same, where I'll have part A and part B. So we'll say part A is 4y. So I have 5x minus 8y equals 190. I care about the y, so the first thing I do is I get rid of the 5x. So I subtract 5x from both sides. I get negative 8y equals minus 5x plus 190. Now I'm going to divide everything by negative 8. So I get y equals 5/8 x, and 190 over negative 8 simplified is minus 95 over 4. I just divided the top and bottom by 2. So that's part A. B is 4x. So I have 5x minus 8y equals 190. This time I'm going to add 8y to both sides. I get 5x equals 8y plus 190. I divide everything by 5, so I get x equals 8/5 y plus 38. If you do 190 divided by 5, you get 38. So that says, if you can't read it, x equals 8/5 y plus 38. All right, kind of smushed it all in there, so sorry about that. And that's it for 9. All right, number 10, we have 3/4 x equals minus 9/11 y plus 12. All right. Now, between 4 and 11, the least common multiple is 44. So I'm just going to multiply everything by 44. Okay. So I have 44 times 3/4 x equals 44 times negative 9/11 y and 44 times 12. Because remember distributive property. So I get 11 times 3, so I get 44 times 3/4 is just 33x. I get minus 36y. And then really the only hard one is 44 times, and that is 528. So simplifying at the end might be kind of hard here, but at least now all of our fractions are gone. So part A is 4y. So I have 33x equals minus 36y plus 528. So I have to subtract 528 from both sides because remember, I only care about the y. And I'm just going to write 36y first. I get minus 36y equals 33x minus 528. Now I'm going to divide everything by negative 36. So I end up with y equals 33 over negative 36. They're both divisible by 3. I get negative 11/12. Okay? Negative 528 over negative 36. And if I look at 528 and 36, 12 goes into both of them. So it becomes just 44 thirds. Right? Negative over negative made a positive. All right? Now, for B. So part B says for x. I'm going to use I'm going to use this. I'm going to start with this. So I have 33x equals minus 36y plus 528. I'm going to divide everything by 33 because that's the only thing that's messing around with x. So I get x equals negative 12/11. All right. And it works out. 528 divided by 33 is just 16. So I get negative 12/11 y plus 16. So the x part's actually really easy. All right. That's it for 10. All right. So I have area equals 1/2 base times height. Because you guys hate fractions, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2 to start. So multiply this by 2, multiply that by 2. I get 2a equals base times height. Now I'm just going to get rid of the b. So I get height equals 2a all over b. That's it for 11. 11 through 14 should be much easier. All right. Remember, it says for h. It's important what it says for. I need to get h by itself. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. So 3v equals pi r squared h. Multiplying both sides by 3 got rid of that. All right. Now I want, remember, h is what I care about, so I'm going to divide by pi and r squared. If I do it on one side, I do it on the other. And we're done. So I get h equals 3v all over pi r squared. I do not want no fractions over fractions. So do not divide by a third. Instead of dividing by a third, multiply by 3. That's what I did first. All right, that's it for 12. All right, so we have I equals P times R times T. I bet that's an interest formula, by the way. So it says solve for P. That means I want to get P all by itself. So I have to divide by R and T, which means I do it on both sides. So I get P equals interest over rate times time. That's it. All right, 14, it says F equals 9/5 C plus 32. Solve for C. All right, this one's a little bit different because I can't just magically make the fraction disappear. I could if I want to multiply everything by 5. So I'm just going to multiply everything by 5. So I do 5 times F is 5F. 5 times 9/5 is just 9C. And then 32 times 5 is 160. Now remember, what am I solving for? I'm solving for C. So the first thing I do is I subtract 160 from both sides. I get 5F minus 160 equals 9C. Now I divide by 9, divide by 9, divide by 9. So I end up with C equals 5/9 Fahrenheit minus 160 over 9. 160 over 9 just stays the way it is. Now, if you look this up, you don't see a formula like this because they didn't get rid of the fraction right away. So what they did is they just cared about the C. They subtracted 32 from both sides. So or you could have F minus 32 equals 9/5 C. And then how do you get rid of the 9/5? You multiply by the reciprocal. So they have C equals 5/9 times F minus 32. Some people think that's a little bit more simple. So there's two options. Either one of those. And that's it for 14. And that's it for the assignment.